like the world belonged to me. I was the original Queen of the South.
So I was watching TV last night and ran across this show called American Gangster Trap Queens. Have y'all seen it? Man, that show is good. It's on BET, regular BET. This is season 2, episode 1. The first episode is about Perion Roberts. She is from Huntsville, Alabama, and I'm from Alabama, so we are probably either related or neighbors. Perion was born in 1964, so that would put her like in her late 50s. And man, I'm telling y'all, this lady looks good. She said growing up in her house was rough because her and her mom and dad would fight a lot. And it was her, she was the oldest, so she had like 3 younger brothers. And one day she was coming home, her and her brother was coming home, and they walked in and her dad was hitting her mom on the top of the head with a pickle jar. And I'm just wondering what type of pickle jar was he hitting her on the head with. I mean, her dad was a construction worker, so I'm pretty sure he was a strong man. But in order to grab the top, I mean, was it like a quart-sized pickle jar? The mom worked for the state, so was it like one of them homemade canning jars? Because, we are in Alabama, so we'd have canning food. But anyway, you a mean mofo to hit somebody on top of the head with a dang pickle jar. But anyway, her and her brother was sick of it, so they jumped him. They jumped the dad, they started beating on him with all their might or whatever, trying to get him off their mama. And I guess the daddy gets mad or whatever, so he sling the kids off of him and pull his pistol out and start shooting at Perion and her brother. So they run out the door and out into the street or whatever. I mean, they were scared to death. And from that point on, that made Perion stop trusting men. I mean, she grew up being a daddy's girl, and then now her own daddy is shooting at her to get out of her own house. So a couple years pass, and her dad finally leaves, and they do have more freedom from the violence, but they're lacking the money, because like I said, the dad was a business owner. He owned his own construction company. So she ends up meeting this guy named Champ. He's like a local dealer. Everybody already know him or whatever. So he's buying her diamonds and pearls and stuff like that, treating her, showing her the good side of life. So he ends up teaching her how to cut and bag up the weed. So she's selling with Champ for a while, and her mom and them thinking the money coming from Champ, because everybody know he's like this big time dope dealer, and they think the money come from Champ. They have no idea that Perion is like the behind the scenes girl that's taking care of the business. Champ ends up having that same bad temper that her dad had, so he ends up going to prison for shooting some dude. So now it's up to Perion to collect the money from the dealers. She had no idea about, well, she did have an idea about how to handle it, but she knew that they weren't going to respect her because she was a woman in the game. So she got her gun, went over to the projects, told them, I'm here to collect my money. They're like, what money? What money? So she ended up having to shoot the first dude in the leg to let him know she wasn't going to be playing about her money. And so he gave it up, and she said she didn't have to worry about nobody else trying to play her, because they know she came around, she wanted her money, or something's going to happen to you. Now, the weed money was pretty good, but it wasn't that big money she had planned on having. She always had this $1 million plan in her head. So she stopped selling the weed, and she goes to A&M, which is good. I went to A&M. I should say I served time in A&M. It was some fun time. She went to A&M. She worked 3 jobs. She maintained an A and B average. Her parents was proud of her and everything, but, well, her mom. But she ends up meeting the next guy, Po Boy, while she is in college, and he shows her a different way of life. So everybody knew that Po' Boy dealt cocaine. And so they end up hooking up. And so she decided to drop out of school from Alabama A&M to start selling cocaine with Po' Boy. She used the stuff she had learned at A&M to manage her business on the street. She had took marketing and management classes, so that's exactly how she was going to run the streets while she was out there. She ended up opening her own cleaning service while she was running the coat, because of course they needed somewhere to, laundry the money through. And that way she was able to live a free lifestyle. Everybody thought she was a successful business owner, not the queen of cocaine. Then Po' Boy ends up getting killed outside of a hotel. They don't really go into detail about what happens to Po' Boy on this documentary, but I did watch an interview with DJ Vlad, and she said that they wasn't exactly sure who killed him. He had like 2 bullet wounds. One might have been from the other guy, and the other one they assumed might be from the police. So if y'all would like to check out that interview, it was very interesting. I did not see the whole thing yet, but I will try to link it in the description box, or I'll put it at the end of this video. Queen P goes to the projects and tells Po' Boy's men not to fret, that she'll run it from here on out. They was like, who is this chick? And it was like they had heard him mention her before or whatever. So they was like, okay, what's up? Yeah, we'll ride with you. And that's when Queen P was born. Everything was fine and dandy till her family found out that she was selling drugs. So her mama came and tried to get her to come back home, because she was staying down there in the projects, and she wouldn't go back with her mom. So her mama told her grandmama, and nobody said no to grandmama. So her grandmama went down there and picked her up and brought her back home. Shortly after she gets home, somebody she was babysitting for eventually just tells her to keep their child. They probably like, well, you've been keeping her for so many days, why don't you just go ahead and keep her? The little girl name was Lele. So at 25, Perion became an instant mother. And now with this new responsibility, and of course you want to give Lele the best of the best of the best of the best, here she goes back into the game. The police end up following her brother one night when she was having a rest night at the hotel, and she ends up getting busted. She only had like less than a gram, so at this time she had to serve 6 months in the county. She figured when she got out this time, she really was going to get into the game. So she ends up meeting up with one of the family members of the Mexican drug cartel, and this one she really started leveling up in the game. Perion said she felt like Scarface. Trucks was bringing kilos of dope like every month. Like she was making like $1 to $2 million a month. She said she was known by many aliases throughout Alabama. Queen P, they called her baby girl in Birmingham. She was so powerful that people were like scared to snitch on her because they didn't know what might happen. They didn't know if they was going to get beat up, missing, or dead. Her early distrust of men continued on still at this time or whatever. She would have her mail company over, and then whenever they would finish doing what they would do, she would tell them to sleep on the floor with her dog. Like, nigga, you ain't good enough to sleep in the bed with me. Get on the floor with Fido. She treated men like how she saw men treat women when they were powerful in the game. It was like they said like she really loved her crew, the dudes that work with her and stuff like that. But if you was a man trying to date her, like she put you through pure hell. Someone on her team started making moves behind her back, of course, and so they had got into an argument, and so she had told her dudes to have the dude beat up. Lo and behold, the dude ended up dead. So people was calling the hotline trying to get that money. They were saying, we know Perion did it. We know Perion did it. So they ended up picking her up for this. And they offered her like a 10-year plea deal. But she was innocent, so she ended up fighting the case. This time she went ahead and told her daughter Lele about her hustle because she didn't want her to find it out from somebody else, like in the street. So when she got out, well, she didn't. She ended up being found innocent for this case. And so this made her feel like she was untouchable. Not too long after this happens, her mom passes away and she decides to take a break from the game. She falls in love with this other street gangster named Tony while she was on break, and he was like sloppy in the game. He didn't run a tight ship like she did. So she thought they was gonna be like a Beyonce Jay-Z type thing, but they didn't get along. He was sloppy. She wasn't really paying attention. She got her mind out the game. So things start falling apart. She ends up going against her own rules and makes a deal in a grocery store parking lot. She said when she got there, SWAT team, everybody else was there and busted her. So she was tired of running because it had been like 3 to 5 years that they had been trying to break into her circle, but it was just so tight they couldn't even get in. I mean, for a long time, they didn't even know they were looking for a woman till like 3 years had passed. So she finally gets arrested and she has to post like $100,000 bond. And of course, Tony was nowhere to be seen or heard from ever again. Perion Roberts ends up taking a 21-year plea deal for trafficking. And she was about 40 years old, and she was going to have to serve her time at Tutwiler. She became a jailhouse lawyer while she was in there, and she started filing so many cases against the prison because like she had seen the guards beat a prisoner to death and the feds came in. She was helping other prisoners get their time reduced and charges dropped and all kind of stuff. So they was like, oh my God, we have got to get this girl out of our prison. So she had got so much support from everybody in the world that she ended up getting out after 2 years. Today, Perion Roberts is a successful businesswoman, and she works as an advisor for the Alabama Democratic Party. So we salute you, Perion, for being the beautiful black queen that you are. And we'll see y'all next time. Don't forget to tune in to BET and check this out.